My name is Bill Fisher. This demo covers blocking using Adobe Animate. Before starting our blocking process, we're going to want to save this file as something called blocking. Then we're going to remove our test poses for our characters because we're going to, during the blocking process, create all new poses at the appropriate times. To do that, you see I selected all of these columns, leaving the first column, which is the default pose. I can control click anywhere on that blue selection, and I can choose clear keyframe. And now those poses are gone, and we're left with our default. Now we're going to ensure that every graphic element on our stage that's going to be moving is a symbol. And in this case, we are using graphic symbols. I can select any part of this character, for instance, check over here in the properties, and we can see that this is a graphic symbol. This is the kind of symbols that we're going to use all throughout our animation. Before adding any camera angles on any positions of characters and or graphic background elements, we need to ensure that they are all converted to symbols. We're going to use the original thumbnail animatic in order to set up our scenes. So I'm going to grab that thumbnails layer. I'll turn it on. I'm going to bring it all the way to the top, just underneath the narration. As you can see, all of the blocked out scenes are there in storyboard form. We're going to be using the built-in camera, which is this tool right here. If it's not in your toolbar yet, you can click the three dots, find it, and drag it into your own toolbar. You could see that when I clicked it, it automatically put a camera layer here in your file. We're going to scrub back to the beginning, and we're going to adjust the camera and our multiple environment planes to match our thumbnail storyboards. Before working with the camera, I'm going to choose some layers and click this little button under the camera column, and that will make sure that the camera does not affect those layers. So that will be the page color, paper texture, and the vignette, as well as the thumbnail storyboards. Let's start building our first scene. I'm going to want to put in the chicken coops, which in my production art file don't appear until here. So I'm going to take the two keyframes that make up the coops and the ground plane, and I'm simply going to click them both, move them all the way back to frame one. You can see that the coops are a little bit larger or closer to the viewer than I had set up in my original storyboard thumb. So I will click on the camera layer, click on the camera tool, and then I can use this slider to get them to be the size that I would like. I can also move them back and forth by clicking anywhere in the frame and doing a little sliding back and forth or up and down motion. Now I think I'm going to leave some room for a title up at the top, so I'm going to go off my storyboard thumbnail a little bit. I didn't have my title designed yet, so I quickly made that and put it in place. And now I'm going to turn my thumbnail layer off so that I can start placing the chickens here in the foreground without having to kind of look through the line art of the thumbnail storyboard. Now you can see I have brought in my other two planes, picking chickens front and back. Even though they are characters, I'm using them as background elements. They disappear only after one frame. If we want to extend frames of a scene, what we can do is turn the thumbnails back on, scrub down the timeline until we get to the point where we see that we have a new background. This is going to be the top of the chicken coop. Then I can choose this column just before that change, control click, and insert a frame. I'm not going to insert a keyframe because I'm not changing anything. If we're not going to change something, like change the pose of a character or maybe the position of something in the environment, then I don't need a keyframe, and in fact I don't want a keyframe. I want a simple frame. Let's scrub back to the beginning of the timeline where we can set up our second shot. I'm back at frame 1, and I'm going to scrub forward until I can find the first screen change. That's right here. You can see I have the keyframe from the original thumbnail. I think I'll put a marker here so I can insert a keyframe on my markers layer, and then under properties simply type in a name, and so this will be close shot of standing chicken. I'll turn my thumbnail layers off, and I will turn off the title text and title cloud. In order to do that, I'm going to select those two in a short column, control click, insert a blank keyframe. When we want something to disappear, we simply insert a blank keyframe on those layers. Setting up a new scene requires 3 steps. First, adjusting the camera. Second, adjusting the planes to get a multiplane effect. And third, repositioning and posing our characters. Let's start with step 1 by inserting a keyframe on our camera layer. Once we select the camera tool, we get the controls, and we can set the camera the way we would like it for this particular scene. I'm going to set this up a little bit higher, and I want to make it look like the camera went in a little bit closer to the farm. Once the camera is set, I can go back to my selection tool, and I'm going to select on my chicken's front layer, insert a keyframe there. And I want these to scale up more than the chicken back layer, because then I will get a multiplane effect, because things closer to us scale faster than the things that are farther away. So I'll get my transform tool, and holding the shift key down, I will do something like that. Now I may also want to adjust the scale of the back chickens as well, in which case I can insert a keyframe there. Scale them up a little bit, but not nearly as much as those foreground chickens. Now I'm going to get my character posed and at the size that I would like them. If I had more than one character, I would have to do this to both of them. See, when I open the folder up for my main chicken, I have a column. I can select this column, and with my transform tool, I can scale that character up all at once and position them. Now I want to pose the chicken. I'm going to lock all of the layers and only unlock the folder that has the chicken components. I think that the head will be tilted forward a little bit because our chicken walks, but not particularly well. I'll select the body and the legs, and I think he'll be kind of stumbling backwards a little bit. I think I'll select all of them, rotate them. So he's counterbalancing, you see, with his head from that kind of falling backwards pose. I can put the arms up. That's kind of a counterbalance situation as well. And there's my stumbling chicken. After posing my character, I will scrub the timeline to make sure that I don't have unwanted loops, which I do. I don't want this mouth moving all of the time. So I'll select the mouth, go to Properties, and here, under the looping panel, I'm going to choose Single Frame. And I'm going to choose my frame picker, and I want this frame with the mouth a little bit more open because I think I want them to be a little bit surprised that they're starting to fall and they can't actually walk. After doing that, I can scrub the timeline and check to make sure that I don't have the loop activated any longer. To check the transition between the two scenes, the first scene, the title screen, and this scene right here, which starts the story, we can simply scrub back and forth and imagine how we would get from here to here. It may be a camera cut. We may do a camera truck in. We may have this character pop up. We will sort those things out later. During the blocking phase, we want to leave it just like this. To complete the blocking on your entire animation, you will just continue this process scene by scene until you reach the end. Here's the completed blocked version of the flying chicken. The flying chicken. In the land of chickens, where there is little difference between the finest and the poorest of fowl, one was very different and stood above the rest. Having learned to walk upright, alas, they strived for even more, and thought perhaps they may even be able to fly. So they climbed to the top of the coop and leapt off. Then promptly dropped straight toward the ground. Those that reach recklessly for the sky will surely be brought down to earth. Well, that wraps up the demo for today. Thanks for watching.